our main event, Charles Oliver against the former middleweight and super middleweight champion Michael Nunn. Let's go to Danny Valdivia in the center of the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, seated ringside, a young man that will be defending his title here at the Fantasy Springs Casino against the great Azuma Nelson on December 1st from Yerba Buena, Jalisco, Mexico, the WBC Super Featherweight Champion of the world, Gabriel Redlas.
And there is Gabriel Ruelas in that pay-per-view. He will be fighting Azuma Nelson December 1. We'll talk more a little bit more about that.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Top Rank Incorporated, the Fantasy Springs Casino, owned and operated by the Cabazon Band of Mission Indians, John James Tribal Chairman, and Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated King of Beers, present the Budweiser Championship Boxing main event of the evening. Light heavyweights, 10 rounds. Tonight's bouts have been sanctioned by the California State Athletic Commission, William Eastman Chairman, Willie Buchanan Vice Chairman, Richard DeCure Executive Officer. Boxing Commissioner in attendance, seated at ringside, the former welterweight champion of the world, Carlos Palomino. Our judges at ringside, Danny Millsap, Larry Rosadia, Marty Denkin. Our referee, Pat Russell. And in the red corner to my right, wearing blue trunks with white lettering, his weight an even 172, hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, a professional record of 15 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 7 wins by knockout, the punching barber, Charles Oliver. And across the ring in the blue corner, wearing white trunks with red trim at 175.5 pounds from Davenport, Iowa. His record, 46 wins, 3 losses, 30 wins by knockout. The former IBF middleweight and WBA super middleweight champion of the world, Michael Second to None.
Michael, got our instructions. 10 rounds, touch your gloves, go back to your corners. Good luck.
That is Michael Nunn, the former middleweight and super middleweight world champion. Across the ring, 30-year-old Charles Oliver from St. Louis, who is in what he terms one of the biggest fights he could possibly have, and he feels like he is ready to do some good tonight. They called him the Fighting Barber. He is, in fact, a barber. He works over at Womack Style Shop in St. Louis. I know where we can get a free haircut in St. Louis. Okay?
From now on.
Very engaging young man, as is Michael Nunn. A little off balance there.
Very interesting to see which Michael Nunn comes out here. Down to his lowest since we've seen him on his comeback trail here toward 168.
When we had him against McKenzie in his last fight, he weighed 179 pounds against Cecil McKenzie. Before that, against Terry B, he was listed as 178 here. I think he weighed a lot more than that. And 185 against Cheryl Butler in the fight before that.
And Nunn is showing both speed and power here, as he's got Oliver backing up and a little bit confused. Oliver seeking the ropes here at the sanctuary, not a good place to be.
Charles Oliver, who we thought had told us he was going to attack Nunn and try and work with his hooks to the body and the head, so far is backpedaling, waiting to see what Nunn will do, and once Nunn's attacking him.
You certainly cannot win the fight against Michael Nunn this way. I think it's nerves at this point here for Oliver. Big fight, we talked about that, and he hasn't really found what he wants to do yet.
There's the hook that he wants so badly to land. Nice uppercut on the inside. Nunn is a better inside fighter, and we talked about that with him this morning, and a lot of people give him credit for it. And a good body puncher, as you saw there.
And if you let him keep you at the end of your jab, you have virtually no chance to beat Michael Nunn.
Now here's where Oliver on the inside wants to throw those left hooks and take a step to the left and then come with the right hands, but he's doing none of that so far. Nice uppercut by Oliver.
That's his entrance into the fight.
You are right, Dave. And then he follows it with a couple left hooks. It's almost as if he was waiting and just said, I'm going to wait and pick my shot and then see if I can whack Nunn with something.
Well, based on how he's fighting this round, Oliver better make every punch connect, because you can't be this selective, especially against Michael Nunn.
Now, he may be trying to lure Nunn in so he could land something when Nunn's hands are down. But if he is going to do that, he better start throwing pretty soon. A totally dominant first round for Michael Nunn. So Charles Oliver is either playing possum a bit, or, as you said, he is a little awed by the moment. Well, round one, just the way Michael Nunn drew it up on the chalkboard. We'll be back.
You know, at AutoZone, we know our customers work just as hard as we do. So we're open when they need us, at night and on Sundays. And since 2 million folks each week count on AutoZone for what they need when they need it, we're not about to let them down. That's why we carry so many parts and why we price them so low every day. You see, selling top quality parts at low prices every day is how we make a living. But helping customers, well, that's how we make friends.
Right to the right, baby. You're walking right to you. There's Charles Oliver, and as he ponders what might have gone wrong in that first round, Dave, he's had a career that was marked by a very good start and some trouble recently.
Different phases, the losses in Germany, Wales, Canada, Denmark, taking those fights back to back without any respite in between. He won his last bout. He's under new management and waits for a new assault on things, but he will certainly have to perform better than in round one.
And he fought some tough guys over in Europe. Lost on cuts in several fights, and one decision he thought he shouldn't have lost. So there were some tough breaks there, but he's going to have to do what he's doing right now, which is get inside of Nunn and start ripping some punches.
Yeah, he better make Michael Nunn be Michael Nunn.
And he's cut already. Yes. He's cut over the right eye, Charles Oliver, and that does not look like, that looks like it's in a very bad spot. So the cuts that dogged him in fights that I mentioned apparently is still a problem. Good hook by Oliver.
It is going to serve as a wake-up call for Oliver as long as this fight lasts.
Well, now you see what he wants to do. He wants to go after Nunn with those hooks, but he's not landing them like he would like to.
He needed the cut to really get in here and start fighting.
Good uppercut on the inside by Nunn. He's got a good one. Oliver missing with the right hand.
And finding that Nunn had a pretty good elusive defense there on the inside as well.
Well, defense is what Michael Nunn made his living on for those years when he was the middleweight champion. So he is no stranger to good defense, but in recent years, as his weight has puffed up and his training habits have become less appropriate, he has taken more punishment. But when Nunn is in shape and moving, he knows how to avoid punches.
Especially on the inside, where he knows he will have to fight some of his battles and where he has been deceptively good. Now here Oliver is again just waiting for Nunn. You cannot do that. Nunn has been there for him to try that lead right hand.
And Oliver is letting Nunn move him around the ring just as he wants. Well, they said they believe strongly in throwing those left hooks, but Oliver has not thrown many in this fight.
Well, when you get into a spot and then don't throw the left hooks, there's one.
But it was thrown badly and without a lot of leverage, and he's not taking a step to the left to make that punch effective.
Yeah, he's not cutting off the right side of Nunn as he does that. Certain things happen to fighters during bouts, and these fundamentals that we can talk about, a fighter can temporarily lose sense of how to do those things.
And working, there's the good double left hook. That's what Oliver wants. Working with him is Harold Petty, the great bantamweight who you saw years ago here in ESPN. He's been working with Oliver to do that. Even though Oliver's losing this round, Dave, at least he's being competitive.
Well, at least he showed up with something here, the left hooks, and tries to give Michael Nunn something to think about. But also, his left hand is way down. He wants to get those hooks going. He leaves Michael Nunn and leaves that hand way down. It's there again now.
And I'll tell you something else about Michael Nunn. He is looking more like the Michael Nunn that we knew from years past.
Excellent speed.
And even setting down on his punches a bit. So, the better conditioning has helped Michael Nunn. Make no mistake about it. management at center. Dennis Rodman gets a shot in that triangle offense with the Bulls. You're going to hear about it on Sport. Florida-Auburn, great ball game coming up. And Don King, as his trial continues to unfold, some interesting developments today. There's the cut over the right eye of Charles Oliver. As we mentioned, he lost a couple of fights in Europe on cuts.
How you feel, Charles? All right, let's go, baby. Let's show me something. You Charles, right?
Cutting off those sides on him on the ropes. A press from a long jab. Use that uppercut. Beautiful.
Well, Joe Goosen happy with the work that Michael Nunn has done, and why not? It has been the best effort we've seen from Michael Nunn since this latest incarnation.
And Nunn was able to hold Oliver to just 3 punches landed in the first round.
We're in round 3 of the schedule for 10, our main event. Al Bernstein along with Dave Bontempo. Michael Nunn is in the white trunks. Charles Oliver is in the blue. Oliver came in here with a record of 15-4-1 with 7 KOs. And Michael Nunn, the former champion, 46-3 with 30 KOs.
And Oliver not getting any time to set anything up. He wants to pull the trigger, waits a little bit too long, and then Nunn is on him, and he's already reacted. Michael Nunn is waging this fight at one level of intensity faster than Oliver wants it.
It's a very good way of putting it, Dave. I don't think he expected Nunn to be this aggressive. He gave Nunn the opening, though, when he laid back in the first round and let him come to him. The cut is bleeding a little over the right eye, but right now it doesn't look super serious. But boy, those jabs of Nunn are getting in with impunity.
Well, he cannot miss with it. Now there was a good right hand behind it by Oliver, and he's getting a better sense of at least how to be brave in this fight.
And a good left hook downstairs by Oliver. Well, the way to beat Michael Nunn is to keep him from jabbing you and moving to the right. You got to work the body and the head, and you have to do it mercilessly.
You have to be able to smother him, but not yourself. Some fighters get inside on Michael Nunn, but then they get too close, and they can't punch, and they end up going around him.
And they find out that he's better on the inside than they thought, too. And there's an example, the uppercut from Nunn.
That's just like the subtle secondary disadvantage of not having the reach, because then when you get inside, you have to be perfect. You have to know exactly where it is on the inside that's the best place to punch from.
Under a minute left to go in round 3. The hook lands, good body work there by Oliver. And there's the movement and the speed of Nunn when he wants to use it. And at 174 pounds, he can still use it. And at 168, it might even be more present. But Oliver is not pressing him too much right now. Nunn's able to do what he wants.
He is letting Nunn tee off here and dictate everything.
So how much is it that Michael Nunn is fighting well, and how much is it that Charles Oliver's not getting done what he wants to get done? Probably a combination of both.
And Oliver is loading up for one punch here all the time, and he's getting more highlights each round than the one before, but not enough consistency.
Well, we'll be back for round 4. Stay with us.
There's one way to win the Napa 500, and then there's another. At Napa's Pick the Winner sale, where you can register for a chance to win the Napa 500 pace car. While you're here, pick up some great parts and accessories at low prices, like Autolite spark plugs, just 49 cents, and Napa halogen headlights as low as $4.99. The Pick the Winner sale, going on now at Napa.
We keep America running. We keep America running.
Can France and Italy, Austria and England, Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands ever really agree on a single currency? Actually, they already have. Gold MasterCard. It's accepted at more cash machines around the world.
Excuse me, guys.
Than any other card. Look for your Gold MasterCard invitation in the mail and apply today.
Well, Oliver has the game plan. He shows it there, but not enough execution. He also threw some nice double left hooks after that, but not many.
Michael Nunn threw over 90 punches that last round, which is extraordinary for anybody in this. And there it is. Good Lord, that's a lot of punches to throw and a lot to land, Dave.
And look at that ratio, 58 to 14. More than 4 times the amount landed. And we talked to Michael Nunn this morning about those rounds early in his career. He had to win something like 95% of those rounds in his early career. And you can see from this style that if Michael Nunn doesn't want to lose a round, he won't.
And in this fight, he's attacking more. In the old days, when he moved, he just couldn't hit him. He was, in fact, let's be honest, he was a version of Roy Jones before there was a Roy Jones, and a left-handed version at that. And I don't even think that's not at all a cut to Roy Jones. And I don't think Roy Jones, being a student of the sport, would mind anybody saying that. He knew in the old days what Michael Nunn was all about.
No, there were parallels between the fighters, and that's why it would be a good fight now. If Nunn can get down there and get all of his sharpness together at 168, that's a desirable matchup.
Nunn became the middleweight champion back in the late 80s. He beat Frank Tay. Oh my, here comes Oliver though, who's not impressed with those credentials from the past. He's just whacking them with hooks and right hands. Is Nunn playing possum?
Well, Oliver is getting better shots in here. Nunn seems to wait just a little bit on the inside and tries to open up himself there.
Nunn rips him with a hook. Good body work by Nunn. I mentioned he won the title from Frank Tate, defended it a number of times, ultimately lost it to James Toney, and that's how he did it, with that kind of hand speed and aggressiveness.
Oliver really taking a beating here. He opened up, and now he's brought out a bit of the slugger in Michael Nunn.
Well, when Michael Nunn wants to get after it, he's got some razzle-dazzle, especially when an opponent can't awe him with his power.
Oliver extended himself earlier in this round, and now looks like he's taking his best shots in this round, and so Nunn is sitting down on everything he throws.
Good left hand by Nunn. Did Oliver shoot his load in the beginning of this round when he appeared to maybe stun Nunn?
And it wasn't much of a load to shoot.
Well, Charles Oliver's hanging in there, but maybe only by a thread right now. Nice uppercut by Oliver, and the hook. Well, that's the game plan. It just hasn't worked very well for him. We'll be back.
Truck is my daughter's story.
That's tomorrow night here on ESPN. That should be a good one. We head into round 5, where Michael Nunn and Charles Oliver are going at it. Nunn in the white trunks, the former middleweight champion, and Charles Oliver, the 30-year-old fighting barber from St. Louis, Missouri, who has been very game and made a good effort here, but has fallen short so far against Michael Nunn.
Quite short, 115 on the landed department, and he does need to step it up. Remember, he only landed 3 in the first round, so he has come up since that time, but a terrible start and often carries through.
And Nunn, if you have followed him lately, you know that he's been way up in weight. He's at 174 now. He even told us he was as high as 200 before he started fighting about 8-9 months ago again.
And when he came down from that area, we saw in other fights how he hesitated in moments like this. Here, he is exploding as he has shed the weight. He has shed the slowness and really coming back to his old form.
Nunn told us that on a scale of 10, he thinks he's about at 7 now in terms of where he needs to be to really be a world champion. If he wins this, he is ranked #1 by the WBO, which is interesting since he hasn't fought his 168-pounder in a long time. But nevertheless, he is scheduled to face Steve Collins. It'll be the mandatory defense for him in February or thereabouts if he wins.
That'd be a good matchup, too. Collins, a good boxer, stays outside, and Nunn would have to pick him apart.
Oliver working well on the inside now, throwing little uppercuts and hooks.
He's not getting as much resistance, just like the last round. Nunn let him come in, then tried to explode.
I think Nunn wants to punch himself up, but Oliver's landing very well.
Hey, don't toy with anybody.
Nice hooks by Oliver. Nunn might be hurt. Let's see. Nunn shakes his head no, but he got ripped with 3 good left hooks there.
No sense in letting Oliver get those shots in, regardless of their impact.
Now, we're in round 5 here. Nunn is not moving. He could be, but he's not. Does he think he has the power to put Oliver away right now? Maybe he does. He lands a big left hand. So after a big beginning by Charles Oliver, it's Nunn on the attack.
Same pattern as round 4.
Whenever Nunn punches, Oliver pretty much stops. Oh, nice uppercut by Oliver. A little swelling around the right eye of Michael Nunn, though, on those left hooks.
Oliver should take a shot while Nunn is coming at him. Might have Nunn walk into one.
Just seconds remaining here in the 5th round. A very competitive and intriguing round. Maybe there are more to come. Let's see.
In South Dallas, a lot of folks like to work on their cars, and a lot of them come to AutoZone. They save money on top quality parts, and they find helpful people like Rocky Brown. Oh, sure, there are other parts stores in town, but Rocky's the kind of guy folks go out of their way to see. He's good at solving problems, and he really knows his part.
Let's listen in Michael Nunn's corner.
Deep breath, Mike. Deep breath. Keep on giving it. That's what I do. Keep on giving it. See, you landed a couple of little left hooks on the inside.
Well, here's the punching barber. Tries to take a little off the top here.
Enjoying the show.
Nice left hook, good uppercut. Some of his best moments in the fight. Combination by the barber there for the first time.
So as Charles Oliver comes out here for round 6, he comes out whacking against Michael Nunn. Perry Como used to be the singing barber, so maybe Charles can take over for him.
And Nunn with a good edge in the 5th round, but Oliver's numbers better than they've been throughout the entire fight. He landed 42%. That's the most accurate round, and he's coming on here.
Nice little uppercuts on the inside, and right by Charles Oliver. He's going after it now. He got Nunn's attention.
He senses this is his chance. One way or another, he's got to gamble.
Now, when Nunn's on the ropes there, you have to go to his body first before you get to his head. Well, Michael Nunn is a crafty guy. Good right hand by Oliver. Nunn is acting like nothing's hurt him. Maybe it isn't, but he's getting whacked with some punches here. There's the right by Oliver.
Even if they weren't getting in, why let Oliver get brave? Now, Oliver is doing some nice work here. He has gotten to Nunn, and the body shots have been good, too.
Well, it wasn't a bad round 5 for Oliver. It's a better round 6, at least at the beginning. Let's see, though, if Nunn comes back. Oliver looks a little weary in his legs.
Well, Oliver cannot win this fight without some explosion. And the numbers won't matter to him. He needs a knockdown, a couple knockdowns, or a stoppage.
Well, he was on the brink of disaster, but let's give Charles Oliver some credit, boy. He is fighting back to try and win this fight. He said, I came here to win this, and he said, this is a big moment for me, and I'm going to give it what I have, and he's doing that right now.
At the end of round 3, he was on the verge of maybe being put out of this fight, but he's rebounded strongly, at least in the guts department. And we see Nunn slowing down, not making Oliver pay as much as he did earlier, and Oliver's confidence went up.
The jab of Michael Nunn, very impressive here, trying to get him back to possibly winning this round at least. There's the left hand of Oliver.
We've seen Nunn be a little more sloppy here. Really not putting it together as much as he did earlier. You're seeing the theatrics, not punching as much.
His hands are low.
Down and
I mean, we've seen Michael Nunn's hands low before, but this looks like they're low because he's a little tired. And also, Nunn has expended a lot of energy in this fight, more than he has in the recent fights where we've seen him as he's coming back.
Well, if Nunn is 70%, the subsequent rounds of this fight would bring that out.
So in round 6, not a bad round for Charles Oliver, but at the end it is Nunn coming on. We'll be back for round 7. Stay with us. We head into round 7 in this super middleweight encounter between Michael Nunn in the white trunks, Charles Oliver in the blue. Actually, I should say light heavyweight, or close to light heavyweight. They both came in very close to the light heavyweight limit, or they are in fact light heavyweights. There are the numbers for round 6.
Good round for Oliver, closest, and I actually think he won that round because his power shots were better. He had 57% of his power shots in there and got Nunn's attention. He got on the board on my scorecard. I need a lot more, but he is on the board and fighting fairly well now.
Well, there's good combinations by Charles Oliver. He certainly has picked up steam in the last few rounds. Good hook by Oliver. He's making Nunn come to him. And Dave, he said that to us tonight. He said, I want to see what Michael Nunn does when he comes to me.
And now there's the counter, a good right hand there. And Oliver getting shots in here, making Nunn come. You know, he wishes he could have those first 3 rounds back because he has fought on good terms since the 4th.
You made the point that in the CompuBox punch profile guys showed us that he only landed 3 punches in that first round, Charles Oliver. So since then, he has made huge improvements.
Yeah, I really think that the nerves rattled him and got to him in the first couple of rounds of this fight. He dug a big hole. When he discovered that he can punch on somewhat even terms with Michael Nunn, he came on.
So this young man from St. Louis, a 30-year-old, a veteran who really wanted this opportunity, is now fighting like he wants it. Those are excellent punches, not just because he's landing them. They're the right punches to throw against Michael Nunn.
He's got right hand leads in here. He's throwing double left hooks. He's going to the body. There's a right hand shot. He is seeing his punches now and letting it go. Meanwhile, Nunn only fighting in spurts here.
They're a nice combination by Nunn, but now we're seeing that Nunn is saying, I'm only 7 out of 10 in terms of conditioning and everything. Nunn can't do this all the way through in a 10-round fight, so he's picking his spots.
He can come out blazing in the first 4 rounds of a fight, and then at some point in the fight, he'll have to take some time off, and you suspect he'll have energy at the end.
And right here, for about a 45-second period, Michael Nunn takes control of the fight. Will it be enough to win him this round after Oliver did good work early?
So now at this point, Oliver has no need to wait for Nunn all the time. It's one thing to want to make Nunn come to him, but he doesn't always have to make Nunn punch first.
Good body shot by Nunn. And he hurt him with the body shot, and he knows it. But here comes Oliver back again, ripping with hooks. Well, it turned, oh, good hook by Oliver.
He caught Nunn walking right into that.
So guess what? It turned into a good fight. Go figure. We'll be back.
Oliver waging his most inspired action, forcing Nunn to come on, and then they duel on the inside.
So we head into round 8. It is scheduled for 10. Michael Nunn in the white trunks, Charles Oliver in the blue trunks. After a tremendous start in the middle rounds by Michael Nunn, Charles Oliver started to pick things up. Undoubtedly, Michael Nunn is probably still ahead in this fight, but certainly Oliver, the fighting barber from St. Louis, is showing us that he's not a bad fighter.
You're seeing a boxing version of sitting on a lead, which is what Michael Nunn has done really since getting out there to a nice extension in the first 4 rounds of the fight. Now his jab, the key weapon, we talked about that in the keys. It has gotten him to this point. It built the lead, and since then it's been an even fight.
And you would always expect Michael Nunn to win the battle with his jabs, but he's done a very nice job with that jab. Oliver now retreating and letting Nunn come to him.
Charles Oliver still waiting for the mistake by Nunn to capitalize on. And it's a risky way to fight as far as the judges go, because you have to be so much more perfect in your punches to win.
Well, for Charles Oliver, his wife Vera, who's here, a lovely lady, is celebrating her birthday tonight. She hopes that he can come up with an upset to help her celebrate it. Right now, it's kind of an uphill struggle. Misses with the hook, and Nunn having a very workmanlike 8th round here. Michael Nunn, with some of the energy he may have saved when he paced himself a little in some of those middle rounds, he now looks like the man with more energy in there. And the right eye of Oliver is all but closed. He cut it. Nunn cut it in about the 2nd or 3rd round, and since then it has begun to close, and now it is looking very swollen.
And Oliver puts himself in position to have it exploited by retreating to the corner, which he's done many times during this fight. It has not been a good idea. Once in a while, he's landed a right hand off it, but for the times it's backfired on him, overall, the strategy hasn't been worth it.
That's where Oliver wants to be on the inside, none allowing him to be there. And when he's there, Oliver can land some punches. But that's the hand speed of Michael Nunn, who we have to say has performed very well here tonight.
The hand speed by Nunn, a good tiebreaker. He goes on the inside, always moving with the jab. Now there, when Nunn went downstairs, he should have paid a price, but Oliver did not hook him.
He hurt Oliver with a body shot in the previous round, in round 7. And right there, he hurt him with a left hook to the body. The right eye looks very bad of Oliver.
And he cannot see much coming at him, and he'll be a target.
This is a fight that they may want to think about stopping if that eye gets worse. We'll see. We'll be back for round 9.
This bank works like business works. To do a good job. To take your business.
1996 is here already at James Wood.
Swelling around the right eye. That eye is very close to being closed. And they looked at it in the corner. The doctor looked at it, and we get the feeling that they might think about stopping this fight if he continues to take that kind of punishment.
You get the sense that one more dominant sequence by Nunn will do it, that they were that close to it.
Here's why that's the case. Well, as you look at the numbers, Nunn upset about the Vaseline on the right eye of Oliver, but you see the big edge from Michael Nunn. It's been a superb performance by Nunn.
And in that round, he held Oliver to 4 jabs out of 16, so Oliver unable to even land anything to set up his power shots. And Nunn in a very comfortable position through 8.
Well, there are a lot of folks in St. Louis who are on their television sets watching Charles Oliver, and one thing they have to be proud of his effort. He has fought gamely and with great skill in certain spots, but he's in against the fighter Michael Nunn, who is fighting close to his best.
And even with the new management, you have to look back and maybe get it to a little bit more realistic level of opponent. He's been overseas, tough guys. Here he fights a very tough guy. Down at a different level, he can really excel. But I guess his age has something to do with it too. 30 years old.
You have to take some chances. He did here tonight. And he ran into a Michael Nunn who is much better than the Michael Nunn we saw against Cecil McKenzie and certainly against Terry B. This is a Michael Nunn who's in shape, who is showing us the boxing ability and some of the body punching and setting down his punches that we had seen. Mitchell moving a lot now in what is not a huge ring.
Well, there's been something there for Nunn's supporters and for his critics. The supporters looking at the early barrage and all the speed he has, and the critics will look at the inside shots he got hit with in the middle rounds and say, hey, my guy could hit him. So that's good, so he'll get other fights off of this.
And nowhere in boxing or nowhere in sports is anybody scrutinized more carefully, even in a big win, than in boxing. Under a minute left to go in round 9. Nunn using his hand speed here in the round. Oliver tried. Oh, nice hook by Oliver. Did it hurt Nunn? I don't know.
Oliver has been able to fight in spurts, and that's been it. And again, voluntarily retreating to the ropes and to the corner. And if there's one thing that really has done him in strategically tonight, it is that.
So round 9 will be coming to a closer. It's one more left to go. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an interesting battle. You've seen Michael Nunn return at least somewhat to the form that he had before, and you've seen him do it against an opponent who was game and who wanted to try and win it. Right now, Nunn is all over Charles Oliver. We'll be back for round 10. Don't go anywhere. Top Rank Boxing has been brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. We keep America running. And by Super 8 Motels with over 1,300 locations in North America. Life's great at Super 8. So Charles Oliver, as you look at him, the 30-year-old from St. Louis, comes out for the 10th round to face this man, former middleweight champion and super middleweight champion Michael Nunn, and his trainer Joe Goosen just barely escapes the ring in time as he was giving a last-minute pep talk to Nunn.
Well, Nunn has turned it up as far as the second win is concerned, landing 73% of his shots in the last round.
Meanwhile, Oliver lands a right hand, and Michael Nunn retreats against the ropes.
And for Nunn, very good in the beginning, not as strong in the middle, fairly good at the end.
Nice right by Oliver. So let's see, is Nunn just doing this to buy time, or any of those punches having an impact?
And how much of round 9 did Oliver take off, hoping to save himself for one burst in round 10? He's got it in the wind tank here if he can just unload. Now, whether you're protecting a lead or not, this is just no way to fight if you're Michael Nunn. I don't care what the circumstances are.
Well, this is something he's been criticized throughout his career for. Kind of taking a moment, he was talking to Oliver. It's part of his makeup to do this. And there are some fighters, there's some fighters, and you could name a bunch who just can't resist doing that.
Well, sort of.
Ray Leonard couldn't resist it. Camacho couldn't resist it.
Every now and then flirt with peril just to get away.
Just about halfway through round 10, the 10th and final round. Actually, it's a light heavyweight encounter. They're both light heavyweights. Nunn would like to be at super middleweight, which is where he'll be if he wins this fight and another one. He will fight Steve Collins for the WBO super middleweight title.
Well, Nunn has done everything but stop Oliver to this point. And had he really gone down and went after it earlier, he would have gotten that. If Oliver makes it to the end, I'll bet he spent maybe 3 entire rounds, second by second, retreating, going to the ropes and going to the corner.
Under a minute left to go. It is all Michael Nunn right now here in the 10th round. Not a lot of those shots by Nunn either, however. But he's certainly landing them. And the jab continues to be a great weapon for him. Nunn at 32 years of age, I mentioned it in the highlight, his last run at greatness, and he looks, for one thing, like he's put himself in a condition where at least he has a shot at that.
He's not going to beat himself at this point, and he shows some of the vintage skills, and in his case, some of the necessity to preserve a little bit of time in a fight to make it to the end, which is one concession any fighter has to make to age.
Well, he has not been a champion since early 1994 when he lost to Steve Little to lose his super middleweight title. He would dearly love to get another title shot back, and he looks like he's taking a step toward making that happen. For Charles Oliver, he goes the 10 rounds with Michael Nunn. Respect written on both their faces, and why not? Charles Oliver fought very gamely and with skill during a good portion of this fight, but I think we can safely say was just not up to the task physically and in terms of his skills to beat an in-shape Michael Nunn.
Now, he had some moments in the fight, but he needed practically a perfect battle to do it. So for Oliver, he would like to go down maybe a notch in the competition he belongs at to perform successfully, and for Michael Nunn, he can come out of this with a satisfying victory, but yet some things he would like to work on. His management would like that, because that should keep him hungry.
So we anticipate a unanimous decision for Michael Nunn. Danny Valdivia is in the ring. Let's go to him right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner by unanimous decision, Michael, second to none.
It is as we thought it would be. Michael Nunn winning a unanimous decision. Interestingly, not everybody in this crowd is vocal in their support of him.
Very game, Charles Oliver.
There are the punches, Dave.
He dominated, practically double the amount of punches landed for Nunn. 75 punches around thrown, so we'll see how that compares as his weight gets down there. Overall satisfying for him, just one little spot in the middle he'd like to work on.
So Michael Nunn, with certainly his best performance in the last year or so, Michael Nunn gets a win, maybe headed toward a world title shot. For Dave Von Tempo, I'm Al Bernstein. We are delighted that you joined us this week on Top Rank Boxing. Don't forget